Welcome everybody. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Marguerite Storm. People call me Greet, but in the US they can't see Grite as in Greet. They see Grite or Gret or all sorts of things. So some people call me Marguerite, some people call me Greet. So I'm open to whatever. My granddaughter calls me Grandma Great, and I like that very much. Um, I'm here to talk about how I rebuilt my translation, what happened to me, and how I came out of it with much more than I had before. And I want to share what I learned through this experience that really was not easy, but that was extremely profitable and interesting for me. So I learned a ton of things. Okay, what's this? I'm sorry, I have something. Oh, never mind. Sorry. So, next slide. Here is what we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about myself personally, but very little. Kind of how I started my career 21 years ago now. And then how I just fell into this very deep slump 2 years ago or 3 years ago now. It was in the course of 2017 that it started. And the first thing to do for me was to find out why, because I really had been very fortunate, thriving for many years. And then suddenly like 16, 17 years. And suddenly it was, I was like navigating in a desert, and I couldn't believe this had happened not very progressively. I mean, I wouldn't say suddenly, but it went fast. So I questioned that, and I found, of course, several answers. One of them is that I'm not a specialized translator. I'm kind of a generalist. I do pretty much everything that I feel I can, and that's the way I like it. But I want to talk about that because we'll see why. I'll develop that for a minute, and then the rest of the things that I did to get back, and I have a few practical examples. I'll have a little word about age. I'm going to be 70 in June this year. So for me, it's personally not really a big deal because I'm not trying not to fret about what I can't control, but I do question how it affects my business, how it affects the future of my business, if it does, etc. So I want to talk about that because I feel like nobody's talking about that. At least in America, the average age of translators is around 40, 45. And for us who are the seniors, I think we have a lot to say and a lot to teach, or at least tell other people that can be beneficial. And then what I'm doing right now and how I maintain the results that I achieved in that period of transition. So for 1 second, I want you, but let's just skip that for now because I can't see the chat. So I'll try to have a few minutes at the end for questions orally then, and then we'll see if Uri can give me the chat so I can probably answer questions by email afterwards. And you have my email address at the bottom of each slide. I don't know if it's too small to read. It's on the first line of the chat. Also, Grite, Grite at translationfrench.com. And translationfrench.com is my website, as you can guess. So I'm from Belgium. I grew up in Belgium. I lived in France for 15 years. And then I reconnected with a high school sweetheart because I had been doing 1 year of high school in Texas, not in Dallas, in a different city, where I'd met Chris, and we reconnected 24 years later, and we will be married 24 years this year. So I moved over here 25 years ago with my 3 children from my first marriage. So they all went to school here, and we kind of switched to a multicultural family. And they are now back in Europe, one in Spain, one in Belgium, and one in France, to make my life easier. But everybody's doing well, and it was a really great experience for them because they went to college over here, and that was, kind of something that a lot of kids in Europe don't have the opportunity to do. So I speak 3 languages, Dutch imperfectly, but I translate from Dutch because I understand it and I can read it. And I became a translator kind of naturally because I'm, I was here in a different culture, and I thought I want to do something. I want to work, and I want to do something that uh, makes me use the benefits of being in this country and going back over there. I go back to Europe a lot because I've got all my family there, and it gives me a very broad a view of cultures. And I know some of you are in the same boat with, living in a country different than your origins. And that's something that you can leverage to benefit to others and so that's kind of how I started. And the age, of course, well, I'll come to back. I don't know why I put that here because it's kind of better to talk about that later. So when I moved here, I thought, okay, where do I start? How do I start? So I did this certificate in translation online from New York University. It's just 4 or 5 courses. It's not, I did it over 2 years because I was already beginning to work. And it kind of opened the doors of how you do this. I mean, it didn't teach me how to translate. It taught me the tools, the tools at the time. This was in 2002. So it kind of got me on the saddle, and it got me my first big job because one of my classmates was already working and gave me an overflow of her work to get started. So I don't think I want to go back and look at that translation now, but it worked out very well, and from then on things kind of snowballed, and I pretty much had nonstop work from then on. The ATA membership, I mean, those organizations, like probably for you, the ITA are wonderful. They're gold mines of resources and networking opportunities. So I'm very grateful for those organizations because they really are a wonderful platform to help. But you all know that. I've created my own website that was very basic, but I really wanted to be on the internet from day one. And then the forums, Pros, Translator Cafe, I mean, different ways. I mean, today we've got tons of things. At the time, there was not that much choice, but that's kind of a must do right now. And so, as I said, from there, I just got to work, and it never really stopped for, I think, 16, 17 years. So suddenly, oops, sorry, that's not what I want here. So suddenly I see my numbers going way down, way down. I had never really had any complaints from clients, never had a train wreck translation. I mean, didn't remember having any client that was not happy with my work. So I started asking the ones that I knew personally, and most of my clients were agencies, by the way, translation agencies. And so nobody would say, yeah, you really suck at what you do. You should do something else. Nobody said that, which I would have heard and moved on. But um, anyway, and last thing, this had nothing to do with the pandemic because it happened a year before that. The end of 2019 was my worst, very worst year ever. um, I really considered stopping, thinking the market must have changed. I missed the boat and I need to go do something else. In fact, I started for a couple of months only uh, selling kitchen appliances of all things. I'm sorry to report, but that really didn't last very long because I really was not good at it at all. So why did it happen? Number one, and I think that's really my number one, I never did any marketing. I don't like to push my, I'm not a good seller, I don't think, although I'm learning now that you can learn that and become a good seller. And I know, I kind of know why. You can be, anyone can become a good marketer of its own trade. I had very few direct clients, and none of them were long lasting. I did some work for some companies for a while, and then for some reason they would have somebody internally, or things changed, and that wouldn't go on. So the the next point is linked to that is the fact that when you work for agencies, you really have to find the ones that pay enough for your financial goal, and a lot of them don't. So I'm afraid I don't know anything about the rates in your country, and so we don't need to talk about numbers here, but the fact is it's important to look at your rates on your market and in your market and see if you stand where you should for your work and for the quality of your work, which I really never did. I just thought, oh, come on in. I'll do it for your price. I never argued. I thought, well, this is just so much fun. I have so much work, but I was working way too much for what I was earning. And so that's something that needs to be addressed. And then the specialization, um, I do not have a specialization. I learned in the beginning of my career, most of my work came from financial institutions, investment managers, things like that, and investment funds and things like that. So I knew a little bit, but I was far from an expert. So I just took the time to learn, since that was my work at the time. And so I kind of became a specialist in financial translation, but never to the point where I could call myself an expert. I'm I'm just I'm just a generalist. I think that's something that's another thing that is totally against, not against, but uh, in the other direction, that what people who teach you translation today, or marketing translation, um, the first thing you hear everywhere is find your niche and identify your ideal client. Has anyone heard that before, when you figure out, I mean, how you get more job? I mean, I hear that over and over and over, and it started by, I mean, in the beginning, I lost my sleep over it because I thought, I have no idea. My ideal client is the client who pays me my rate and who sends me 20,000 words once a month or twice a month. That's it. And I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but that's kind of how I felt. So I think it's interesting to talk about that. Um, and I feel now, looking back, that I'm kind of living proof that there's also an avenue for generalist. And in fact, I after I did that first presentation, I had a lot of people saying, "Me too, me too, me too." Finally, we can, be recognized as non-specialists. Um, and in fact, if a translator that I knew had worked in the biochemistry, she has a diploma in biochemistry and had worked not as a translator but in the field, and then she decided to switch and become a translator. Well, she is a specialized translator in biochemistry, which is fine, but she's still not an expert in translation, because that's another a skill different than what she was doing in her lab. So, it's back to square one, is that I'm okay, you're a specialist, but you still have to add your skills in translation. So it's all, I mean, you can all argue about that a lot, but the fact is that I don't have a specialization. Maybe, I mean, sometimes I'm thinking maybe I should have, it would have been easier. I think maybe it's easier, I don't know. But the thing is, it's not my nature. I look at the other things I do in my life, and I'm very good at different things. I play the flute. I was a weaver for years. Um, I want to try all sorts of things. I dream of living in an RV for a whole year. All these things, and I really want to learn and want to know and all that. So I go into all these directions. And when you do that, you can't just focus on one thing only. And so I'm thinking now that focusing on your strength, if you're passionate about the environment, and really that's primary in your life, then you can be a specialized translator, or I mean, you name whatever field. But if you are passionate about 50 different things, it doesn't work. So if I receive a job for about knitting, I'm thinking, whoa, great. I used to knit all the time. I did when my grandkids were babies. And so I love it. But the next day I received a text on Renoir, and I love art, I love paintings. And that job was a pleasure to work on, although it was not easy, but it was a pleasure the whole time. And the next day it's going to be something different. Um, it works for me, and it doesn't work for everybody, but it works for me, and I'm sure there are other people um, who think the same way. Um, and then I think it has benefits, because you get probably not paid as much as a high level expert, but you also have a variety that's, in my opinion, a little more pleasant to work in different things than doing the same thing. Again, that's it depends on everybody's nature. But for me, I don't think I could actually be an expert in one field. I just don't think it's not my DNA. So that's for, do you have any questions on specialization? You can unmute and talk, or we'll just keep
Yes,
on.
I wanted to add that I also work in French and English.
Yeah.
And about the same time, my French business collapsed. It was fantastic. And then in 1 year, it went down to 10% of when it was before. I did not lose any customers. I did not receive any negative feedback. And something happened in the French English market, and I have never been able to find out what. And I was forced to find other areas to make up for the lost income.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's there is something we don't know that happened to that market, and I cannot put my foot on it, and it's never fully recovered, in my opinion.
Well, it may be, but in my case, I started choosing my clients better. I'll show you in a few minutes how I did that, but I changed my approach and my way of doing things, and I'm back to okay. If some, I didn't never thought about the French market specifically being in trouble. Maybe it is. I mean, it's troubling that you say that. Um, the fact is the market, I think, changed. If you, I mean, in the agency world, probably because a lot of translators started looking more for direct clients than agencies. In the agency world, there's a large variety, at least the ones I know, that have a huge spectrum in terms of rates. Some agencies send you quality work, they pay well, they pay on time, and then you have others that I call the sweatshops. They work on volume and on smashing the prices as much as they can. And I worked for, I'm thinking of one of them, an American company that's thriving, but that's how they work. They really work like a sweatshop. So you can't really control that. You can control what you do about it, and how you market yourself, and how you switch to, like you're doing, switch to other specialties or try to expand. There are several ways to do that. You can also expand your services. You can offer more services in terms of linguistic services, like interpreting, consecutive interpreting. I'm not a simultaneous, but I do a little bit of consecutive when I find the work. I think that's fine because you get out of the office and you meet people, or desktop publishing, or proofreading, or all sorts of things. I mean, there are ways to go around, but I don't know that I could have controlled the French market if it was the French market that was in trouble, you see.
I agree. We have no control of it. We have to adapt to it. What I'm just saying is your experience with the French, the collapse in 2017 was, I suspect it's it's much less about you and much more about something we don't know about.
It could be. It could be. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it could be. So here's what I did. So I like this quote: "Inside every failure is a seed for success." I think for me, the first thing that I did was look in the mirror and say, okay, this is not working. You have to accept that it's not working. Some people have a really hard time with that. It's not an easy thing to do, but you have to question your work and your approach to work, etc. So that's where I started, and I looked at my accounting. The accounting, I had pretty much done that the whole time, but it became crucial in that situation. So I've always used an accounting software that I don't do all my invoicing from an Excel sheet. I admire people who do that, and there are a lot, but now you have softwares that are not very expensive, and it's in a few clicks, and 20 minutes per month you've done all your invoicing. And plus you have reports that tell you where you are, how productive you are compared to the time. I mean, you have all sorts of these tools.
Can you recommend a tool? Can you recommend one?
Yeah, I can. I'm not sure. Do I have the right to say names here?
I don't see why not.
The one I'm using, and it's probably the fourth software. It's called LSP Expert, Language Service Provider Expert, LSP Expert. To me, it's by far the best because it's got all the features you need and it's extremely simple to use. I mean, you jump in, you're in, and from your project order all the way to receiving the money, it's just a streamlined process where you can't miss anything, where you know what you need to do, you know your deadlines. I mean, it's just fabulous. I couldn't live without that.
Right, thank you
So,
very much, because
oh,
I'm
you,
one of the Excel cheaters, so I've been looking
ah,
for one. Yeah, I've been looking for one.
well,
Thank you very much.
they have a 30-day, at least they have a free trial. I can't remember if it's 30 days, but, and if you send me an email, I will send you a link for, I think, if I recommend somebody, I can get a discount on my subscription.
Okay,
And
great.
I think
Yes, I think
you may get
Eliezer
one.
wanted to make a comment.
Yeah.
What?
I think Eliezer wanted to make a comment.
Yeah, just one thing for those based in Israel, that if you use a software, it must be recognized by the tax authorities. So be careful with that. Check
Good
beforehand
point.
before
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, sure, thank you.
Thank you.
And there are several others that are good quality. So if you can't use that one, you can make a search for another one. But I really recommend something like that. And then the main thing that I did for almost a whole year, and I invested a lot of money in it because I felt like I had to, was learning. Um, Again, there are today lots of webinars, lots of coaches, lots of opportunities, books also. You can look around in your area or on the ATA or on Facebook of all places. I mean, um, there's a lot of resources there. I took the time to find the people that I liked, that I connected with, and this is 2.5 years later, and I'm still working with the same people. Whenever they come up with a course that I'm interested in, I don't think I'll ever stop learning or reading or expanding my knowledge, because I believe that's really key to continue growing and keep what you've got. And yeah, same thing, social networks. You know, I have a sister who kept saying, I don't like Facebook. I don't do Facebook. And she's kind of a little bit like that. And I said, why? She was talking about Facebook like it was a place of, bad reputation where you shouldn't go, all that. And I told her, like I tell everybody, Facebook or any kind of social network, it's a tool. It's just like a hammer. You need to put a nail in your wall. Well, you need a hammer. You need to be exposed, to have visibility and to know what's out there in your domain. Go to the social networks. They're a wonderful tool. You just have to know what you post and know, how that works. But same with LinkedIn. I had been a member of LinkedIn for a long time, but never really spent time. And now I spend a little time, and I get clients pretty constantly contacting me and sometimes staying with me after that through LinkedIn. It's just a good source. And same with Facebook, by the way. I've gotten some clients from Facebook also. It's just a matter of using them, having a good profile, and being active. Usually for me on Friday afternoon, when I kind of close down my week, I'll spend an hour looking around all the social networks, what's going on and all that, and it's just works. Um, what I did continued, of course, I told you I spent money. Nothing is free. So if you want to grow and develop, it's just the way it goes. Um, I have to tell you that um, everything I invested paid for itself within 6 months, because the year after, so 2020, I tripled my income compared to 2019. So 19 was really low. 20 is not my ultimate goal, but it was 3 times what I had done before, and it paid for everything I spent on those courses. So it really works. I mean, that's why I'm here. That's why I want to talk about it. My name everywhere. I never miss an opportunity to tell people what I do. Uh, you don't. I mean, I'm not pushy. I don't like to be pushy, but I've learned to present myself and say, um, this is what I do, and kind of go into details when people are interested. And then active marketing. Yeah, go look for new clients, and also learn to choose clients. I really had to kind of sift through several, and it took me a long time to fire an agency. I mean, fire, to just stop working with an agency. I thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And what if, and all that. So the base of all this is your self-confidence. And that's another thing that we need to address periodically, is how self-confident I am, how I see myself as somebody who is successful. And if you see yourself as successful, people will see you as successful. So you can brag a little bit, you can uh, just yeah, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, this was really well, this is success. Or when I see, I mean, week before last, I think I received a very nice compliment for a client for a very difficult job. Well, I just pasted the sentence on LinkedIn just to see it there. I don't know, but it made me feel really good to say, hey, somebody was really happy with my work, and I want to shout it to the world. There's nothing wrong with that. So, and then of course, marketing. This is not a course on marketing, so you have to find the method that works well for you, and that's probably through learning. I had no clue of how I did that, and there are things that I learned that I don't enjoy doing. Telephone calls is something I just unable to do. So you select among many methods of selling your product, because there are choices. Facebook, I had a client. I have a Facebook page that I don't maintain very well yet. I'm not satisfied with that, so I'm trying to make it move. Well, I put a post on my Facebook page. I noticed that the client has a Facebook page as well. So I put a post that says, I'm really proud to be working with this company, and put their Facebook page link on my post. So it's a crossover to them, and it's a small thing. It may be nothing, but if you do that 10 times or 50 times, you'll have a couple of people who will notice that. I talk to people, I reach out, I really see. I mean, I think of, hey, this could be a client. This, maybe I could do this. Or um, it's I think it's one of the benefits of being a generalist, is that I everywhere I go, I'm thinking, a restaurant menu in French is here in Dallas. You have French restaurants, and almost every time there's a spelling mistake in the menu, it drives me crazy. I mean, if you're going to write a menu in French, for God's sake, do it right. Take a dictionary or call me or something. It hasn't landed me a client, but every time I tell them, you know, here's my card. I'm not expensive. I'll proofread your menu every time you change it. And just don't leave a mistake there. One time, this was in New York. The guy answered, you know, it's very bizarre because the boss is French and he's the one who writes the menus. And I said, well, even French people make mistakes in French. You know, that happens too. Nothing bizarre about that. And then another example that relates to you guys, and this is not on there because it just happened last week. Last week, I get a phone call from a man who says, "I'm calling from Israel, and I'm looking for a translator into Hebrew." I think it was French into Hebrew. And I said, you know, thank you very much, but I don't know Hebrew at all. I mean, how in the world do you end up here? And I don't remember how he found me, but that's what he was looking for. And he's based in the US, in Washington, DC. So I gave him the ITA. I said, well, look at their organization and they'll probably have a directory and they'll have what you need. And oh, thank you. And we talked and he said, do you know the Facebook group that's called Maman autour de DC, Mothers Around DC? And I said, no, I mean, I live in Dallas. And he said, you know, there's frequently people looking for translators. You should join. So I'm thinking, mothers is going to be all about daycare and you know, stuff like that, little kids. I love little kids, but I don't know what I would do in that group. So I joined it just to look around I thought, okay, I'll leave it for 2 weeks. And I looked and there was nothing interesting. And I went back to it to cancel it. And just before I canceled it, I see looking for English to French translator, an organization. It was not an individual. And I called them and I am now working with these people. It's the International Baccalaureate Organization who's in Washington, DC. I didn't even know that organization, but it's all academic and teaching material, which I love. And I thought, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll keep Maman to the DC because you never know where you're going to find it. You never know. It's kind of funny. But I did give that guy the name of your organization. So now what time is it? Okay, I got 10 minutes. Age, yeah, it's back to, well, taking care of oneself. I think that's kind of, it's very important, but I hope you all know that. Technology, a lot of people my age and a lot of people younger also don't like technology. They're not interested. So they work with, or they miss out on the tools of the trade. For me, I love it. It's just like toys. I always want the latest of everything, and I have to kind of slow down myself to not have a whole bunch of little gimmicks and things. But basically, you have to have good equipment. It needs to work because it's your lifeline, it's your office, and it's much less money than what used to be people's offices with a secretary and all that stuff. We have a computer, and with that we can work great. So I think it's important to stay afloat on the technology when you turn our age. And older can be better. I think so. I think if you can keep your mind wide open and informed and well fed, yeah, there's benefit in experience. For me, it's the peace of mind. I don't have a problem saying no. It took me years before I was able to say, no, I won't take this job because I thought they won't like me. I'll never see them again. It took me years to really feel that I am a high quality translator, even though people kept telling me that, but it's just, it takes long. It takes work and introspection to get to really know your value. And if you feel like one of my coaches said, if you feel like you're not high quality enough, well, get some courses, learn the trade, and that will rebuild or build your self-confidence. And when you are self-confident, you sell much better. I mean, there's no question. So today, work in progress, mindset, we've talked about it. I do marketing now almost every day, and my best tool is right here. Where is it? It's a little notebook, nothing special, but it's on my desk all the time, because every day, if I think, oh, I need to call this person, or I could probably, I mean, ideas come all the time. I read in the news that a big company is purchasing a small company from Belgium, from the French-speaking part of Belgium. Well, boom, I write down the names, and whenever I have time, hopefully that same day, I look for, I mean, I do a little search, on the company and the contact people and all that. And then I have it on paper, and I can go flip a few pages back and see what I've done, and what I need to, follow up to, and all that stuff. So it's just, here's a better page, you see. So these are all, I highlight things that I've done. It's kind of messy, but it really works for me, because I don't, if I'm working, I don't want to interrupt and say, okay, now I have to do some search about that company that I read about this morning. You can't do that. When you work, you work. You're in the middle of a translation. It's not very healthy to just switch back and forth. So I just put a few notes in the notebook, and then I go back to it and work. And it's, for me, it's working very well. Patience, oh my gosh. I could talk an hour about patience. Everything takes much more time than you think. I thought initially in 3 months I would be back working full time. It took me a full year. I did have work along the way, but not near enough. And it's just after that I've learned that I need to learn to work on that almost every day, and pretty much every day I spend at least 15 minutes on marketing, or I try to just do one thing, nudge a dormant client, or find something else. But for me, what works best now is inbound marketing, which is, since I try to polish my profiles and all that, I notice that people find me. I'm a member of the French-American Chamber of Commerce here in Dallas. I'm a member of the Belgian-American Chamber of Commerce nationwide here. That's my name is on all those directories, and people find me. I'm also a member of the Société Française des Traducteurs, so the French Translator Association. I get work from there. And when something slumps, something else come back, and I really have pretty much a steady flow of work now. Sometimes more than I want, sometimes less than I want. And that's normal. That's okay. But the bottom line is, there's plenty of work there. That's for sure. I mean, there's work for all of us. We are not competitors. We're a team, colleagues that that work together because the volume of needed for translation is humongous. So and for last, here's Nelson Mandela. I never lose. I either win or I learn. Isn't that great? I love that. So we have 5 minutes. I want to hear
Yeah.
you now. Oh my gosh.
We're all in shock.
Oh, I hope that's a good thing. Is that a good thing?
It is a very good thing. A lot of the things you're saying resonate with me so much because I am one of those jack of all trades.
Uh-huh.
I'm
Oh,
only
good.
starting out. Like we're
Yeah.
in different sides of the spectrum. I've been doing this a year,
Yeah.
and you've been doing this more, obviously.
Yeah.
But I also find myself pulled in all sorts of directions. I do literature, I do academic translations. In my private life, I'm a dive master. I play a bunch of instruments. I was a programmer for 2 years, and I have all these bits and pieces from all sorts of places. And I
Mhm.
always like to say, but it makes me a more versatile
It does.
translator, if anything.
And some people are looking for people like you or me. I mean, definitely. And it gives you the chance to kind of pick and choose at some point, you know. But I mean, the reason I'm here is that I hope it doesn't take you as long as it took me to, you know, wake up and have more dynamics in your business. And that's what I failed there for many years. I kept working for my group of agencies that were probably underpaying me, most of them. And I thought it was great, but I didn't take a little bit of distance and say, okay, wait a minute, is this exactly what I'm worth? And I have to say, back in the days, I mean, 15 years ago or 20 years ago, the market was very different. There was a lot more fluid movement in the agency work. And like Mr. Stephen said, I don't know exactly why that changed, but it did change in the agency world. Back in the days, they were all fishing for translators like crazy, and so that's when I started. So Dina, I hope it doesn't take you so long.
Yeah, me too. But it's very inspiring, and it's so
Good.
nice to know that I'm not alone in this
Right. Yeah.
versatility. So thank you.
Well, good. Oh, you're welcome. Pleasure. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm also a jack of all trades like this.
Uh-huh.
I have a specialty. I was a software engineer for 20 years, but
Oh,
I
wow.
don't like to do technical translations. I much prefer to do literary and popular science and things like that. So
Well, you have to like what you do. I think you're better when you like what you do. That's a fact. So yeah.
And
well, good
I'm
for
in
you.
awe of people who can do all these different things.
Well, I think it's about, I think I'm an expert in linguistics. I'm an expert linguist, if you will. That's my expertise. So I know how to do the search. I know where to ask, who to ask. You know, I prepare when I'm in a field that I don't know very well, like technical is a little harder for me, and I don't do a lot of it, but sometimes I do because I'm thinking, oh, there's a challenge there, and I enjoy that. And then I do a lot of preparation. I'll create a glossary if I need to, or find you know, where they are. There's so many resources out there, you know. Um, it's very hard to not have the answer to your questions these days. But it's not for everybody. I totally agree. It's not for everybody.
My
That's the
question
nice thing.
was about, sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
Oh, no. That my question was exactly about that, because also a jack of all trades, of several
Yeah.
trades, not of all trades, because there are some areas where research, notwithstanding, and everything that you want, but I prefer not to enter into things that I know it will take too much effort to research for a
Yeah.
small job probably, or that it is a dangerous things, because very serious things such as medical translation, that sometimes, you know, saying about this, it's a matter of life or death. It's not just a metaphor.
Right.
It's real.
No, you're right.
So
Totally.
you also have liability that you
Yes.
cannot handle with that. So there are things that I prefer to reject the minute I see it, and saying, okay, this is not for me. I'm a
Same here.
generalist, but with
Yeah,
limits.
I do not, generalist does not mean that you're taking everything that's coming to you. It means choosing, of course, because you have to have a basic knowledge into whatever you do. I don't think I would take a job where I know nothing at all. But my example with Renoir, I am not an expert in impressionism. I'm not an expert in painting, but I know Renoir, and I know a little more than just the name.
Oh, I
And
saw the movie.
oh, so so from there you've got a base. It's maybe not huge, but you got a good base, and then you add all the resources. And you're right also about, that's interesting what you said about the size of the job. Um, Obviously, you're not going to spend 3 hours or a half a day researching a job of 300 words. That's a fact. I mean, to me, that's a factor also, of course. You always have to have that in mind.
That's why I prefer long-term projects. Like I
Oh,
would
yeah.
always prefer to work on a book or work on a series of articles or work in an ongoing collaboration with someone than take jobs from agencies for 300 words or even 2,000 words and
Yeah,
negotiate
me
every
too.
time. It doesn't make sense for me. But the
Me too. Yeah, I
the
agree.
getting to research part of it, that's exciting for me.
Yeah, same here. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Anybody else? No?
I am a journalist too, and I love it. And I work into French and Hebrew, French, Hebrew, and I love it because in fields that I know, it's okay, and when I don't know so much about it, I love to learn.
That's exactly, me too. I love the learning curve. Yeah, very good point.
And I'm very happy to hear you that the generalist is a field too.
Yeah, there's lots of us, but you
Yes.
just don't read that much. You don't hear much about generalization. And for me, it was very scary when people would say, or webinars and coaches and books, the first thing they say is identify your client, and I'm just,
Yes.
you can't do that.
Yes, I hate it.
Well, so we're not alone. We're not alone. I think are we out of time, Uri?
Yes, I think so. And so for
Okay.
you started thanking you in the chat, which is
Well, yeah. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here. I enjoyed it. And if you want to write, if you have questions, or if you need whatever, you know where to find me. I'll be happy to communicate with you. We can connect on LinkedIn. We can connect by email, as you wish. Okay.
Thank you.
It was a very interesting talk, and thank you for everyone who attended the conference or part of it. And
And thank you to you.
Yuri.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Yuri.
Uri,
Amazing, amazing.
thank you
job.
very much, Uri. And especially thank you from our cats that you managed to put us on the sofa 3 days for our cats. They enjoyed and they participated. But really, it was a wonderful conference. Great job. We look
Great
forward to
job.
the next one.
Okay, you'll hear about it more. I'll send all the speakers and all the speakers here, but all the speakers and all the participants will get participation certificates, and the speakers will hear further about the video recordings and videos where it's relevant.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thank
so,
you. And
Sure, yeah.
very well organized.
okay, thanks.
And in keeping the
Fascinating.
times also, you did all the jobs and really.
That's the
chapeau.
hard part. Yeah.
Yeah,
Keeping-
apparently, yes. Apparently, it doesn't make me time load, which is very disappointing.
Okay, and
Yes.
Grete, you're great.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Okay, so good night, everyone.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll see you.
Thank
Yeah.
you
next year.
very much. Bye.
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 Bye-bye.